My name's Gary. I'm a grateful, recovering alcoholic, drug addict. I want to talk about a couple things. I've been making these videos, try to give the new guy some strength and tell him a little bit about God, of my understanding, and letting him know that it's available to him. Sobriety is available to him and her, and I'm nobody special. I'm just a hopeless drug addict and alcoholic who prayed to God, and God started giving me some gifts, and willing to achieve the struggle for sobriety. And it's a struggle right now. I'm not struggling in the sense of trying to stay sober. I'm just going through some really trying times. I just recently, a few days ago, lost my son, who was a wonderful kid. And I was thinking, I got to put this on video. This kid was an amazing talent. I mean, he was gifted with this brain that doesn't work like the normal human brain. I mean, he was just like a true artist, in the sense of the word artist. I mean, he could make you laugh. He had such a personality. He was just a character. And him and I were attached at the soul. And he was hard. He was hard because I wanted him to do things my way, like a parent does. And his mom and I were struggling with trying to get him. We want you to do it this way, this way, this way. Brandon lived his life the way he wanted to live his life. And in doing so, right, his way, he gave us, I'm looking at this going, man, this fucking kid gave us the greatest gifts, man. I got to tell you about a conversation, and this conversation, coupled with me praying and coupled with listening to a lot of Jordan Peterson talking about, think of the things that you are doing to completely fucking destroy your life right now, and just pick that one thing and start working on it, right? I gotta keep it together. I'm gonna try to keep it together for this, okay? So, I'm sorry, I just had a text come in, and someone just got the news of my son, and they're wishing me condolences. I'm gonna finish this though. So, I've been sober for 4 months and some change, like 5 days or 6. I don't even know right now. I'm a fucking basket case, just putting one foot in front of the other, and I'm surrounded by love and God's grace right now. So my son, I have 3 sons. Okay, my oldest son, I found out through my mom. She goes, "Oh my God, Chase is going to be having a baby," and I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "I just saw it on Facebook," and I was like, she's been pregnant for 6 months, and I'm like, fuck, man, I was heartbroken that it's been, he didn't tell me. I had to find out through Facebook. And what I did, because Brandon and I, we were close because we were put together a lot the same way, okay? I can't explain it. We're both, we do life our own way, and we're tough customers, man. And no one's going to tell us how to do anything. We're stubborn, and it was our strength, and it was also, it's been my downfall, and it was his. But here's what happened. about a week before I ended up getting sober, maybe it was 2 weeks, I'm not sure, but I was in California when I got that news about my oldest son. Brandon was my middle son. So I was in California, and my mom tells me, and I went into the bathroom and I wept like a baby weeps in his mom's arms when he can't get a toy or something. And I thought, how could Chase do this to me, you know? And my next thought was, Chase hasn't done a fucking thing to you. You've been fucking up, and you can't fucking get sober. And I kicked into prayer harder than ever, man. I had been praying for about a year. God, please make me willing. God, please make me willing, right? And I just thought of this the other day, like yesterday or the day before, about that conversation I had with my son Brandon, and what a great gift it was. Because Brandon was a lot like me, you know. If you know me, you know, I'll tell you my opinion about whatever I think. And a lot of times it doesn't come across real well. But he had the fucking nuts to tell me. And he said, I called him weeping, and I thought Brandon was going to go, oh, Dad, I understand, you know. Because we understood each other. We spoke the same language. God built us the same when it comes to this alcoholism and drug addiction, and just the way of thinking, and in a lot of ways. And so I'm expecting him to coddle me, right? And his snot was flying everywhere. Tears were coming down my face. I had to park my truck in a parking lot and go through this with him. And I said, can you believe that he's never called me? And he goes, why the fuck would he call you? And I said, what? Like why, what do you mean? And he goes, you're a fucking drug addict, man. You're not sober. And I go, well, he knows I would never hurt his kid or hurt him. And he goes, why would he want you around his kid? And I was thinking, why are you talking to me this way, right? Like, I called for comfort, man. And I go, he knows I would never hurt his kid. And, you know, he goes, well, Chase might know that, and Chase probably does. But he doesn't want you around his kid. You're not a good example, man. And I was like, fuck, you know. I knew he was right, and I was so fucking pissed at him. Like, I'm going, how can you say this shit, man? And he goes, and Elena, I shouldn't say the name. I don't know if I should cut this out. I'll ask their permission. He says, well, Elena doesn't know you, and why the fuck would she want some fucked up grandpa around her kid? And as hard as that was to swallow, right? That was the truth. That was the gut, honest truth. And I had to swallow it. Wow, right? I didn't fucking talk to him for about a week, man. I was so fucking pissed at him, right? He had the stones to tell his dad straight up, you're a fucking loser, man. Who, you know, of course, we were in each other's lives, man. We spoke the same language. We'd give each other strength, and that kid gave me a lot of strength, man. He told me some truths, man. We had some long talks in the parking lot. I remember I pulled over one time in Houston, and we talked about some real shit, man. Shit that fucked him up, and shit that fucked me up, and, you know, about my divorce, and, you know, things I never talked about, because I never wanted my kids to, I took it, you know, as far as the divorce goes. I was the drug addict, and in that, and I was the alcoholic, and I'm the one who fucked up a marriage. So I didn't want to talk ever negative about their mom, and I didn't. I didn't. I talked about things that he wanted to know, and that it made it all make sense, you know. So, and he gave me his truth, and he helped me, and I helped him. Now, in Brandon telling me the truth about who I was disgusted and ashamed with myself, and I prayed even harder. God, please make me willing to be sober. So I went back to Houston, pissed off at Brandon. I'm not going to call him anymore, you know. Fucking, he can't even comfort me in my time of sorrow, and thank God he didn't, you know. Thank God he had the fucking balls to straight up tell me, and it couldn't have been easy, but he fucking dug his heels in and he told me the truth, man. And I prayed even harder. And you know what? I was in Houston for a business meeting. I took care of that business meeting, and I was so fucked up. There was no way this guy was going to enter a business deal with me. He said, thanks for laying it all out for me, shook my hand, and I knew at the end of that meeting I blew it, you know. And so I'm on my way back to fucking California, because my only home in Houston was my truck or a fucking shithole motel, right? So I went back to Houston, or I'm sorry, I went back from Houston to California, and got COVID in El Paso for 5 days. And I woke up after 5 days, felt pretty good, and I was like, holy fuck, man. I'm sober. 5 days. This is what I've been asking for. Never even thought to thank Brandon. God gave me what I needed when I needed it. Gave Brandon the strength to set me straight. Brandon is with God right now. There's no doubt in my mind that he exists. There is a God, and my son is with him right now. A couple other things I want to touch base on, okay? I'm a human being, so my mind goes to guilt, shame. You know, I feel guilty about a lot of things with my son. You know, I was fucked up a lot of the time, and I couldn't offer the guidance because I was blinded to what they needed. And, you know, I'm living my own fucked up, selfish world, right? Through drugs and alcohol. Now it's too late to give that to my son, right? It's too late. There's a lot of guilt and shame. That's the shit I don't want to run on, okay? And it's a hard reality to swallow because it's the truth, right? There is a lot of things I could have done differently. There's a lot of things I could have said differently. And I could have behaved and acted differently and supported him differently and been sober. I raised him sober. And then when he was around 18 years old, 17, 18 years old, I relapsed and fell off the wagon with almost 10 years of sobriety. So that shit floats around my mind. And I know because I'm praying every day, and I'm looking at all the miracles, and I'm focusing on those, okay? Everybody who knew Brandon is going to have a death. When someone has a death like that, a sudden death at a young age, and and the way he died, everybody who loved him goes, wow, what could I have done differently? Like I just explained to you what I just went through and what I'm going through, with guilt. I've been on the phone. I've spent a couple hours on the phone with his best friend that he traveled all over the United States with, and they lived all over the place with. And my son actually saved his life on a couple of different occasions. And he told me, your son actually saved my life, and this is how he did it. Literally saved his life. And I owe him my life. And he called me the night before he died, or the day before that, or whatever. He was asking him, my son Brandon was asking his friend to come in from San Diego, spend some time with him. And then he had a fentanyl overdose, right? My son's best friend, he's a good guy, man. These guys had a connection, like spiritual, right? These two guys loved each other, right? They would take a bullet for one another. He's weeping on the other end of the phone going, I was too busy at work to just get back to him. He's beating the fuck out of himself. Mr. Brown, if I would have just called him back, if I would have just went to see him, like that would have saved him, right? Listen, it's nobody's fault. Nobody should bear that burden. It was Brandon's choice to do what he did. He didn't try to do it. It was just, he made a fucking bad choice that day, man. And he paid for it with his life. And all I'm saying is, let's knock off the fucking guilt and bullshit. Follow that guilt, right? If a guy like me follows that guilt, I'm gonna follow it right back into a fucking bottle or a needle. That guilt is not my God. That guilt is my humanness. Okay? I'm a human being. We feel those things. This is why we need God, to help us snap out of that fucking devil bullshit, right? That wants to take us down. I'm not going to follow that shit. And if you knew Brandon, or if you have a loved one that died and you're going, why didn't I do this differently? Why didn't I do that differently? How does that make you feel? Like fucking death. Like shit. Why do you want to follow that when there's light all around you? All you have to do is ask for it, and you will receive it. And then follow that light. That makes us strong. That gives us purpose and meaning. This is a hard fucking thing to go through, man. I could spin this fucking thing into the darkness and just run with it. And there are people that do. I refuse. That is never going to happen with me. It makes me feel like dying myself, right? Why do I want to live the rest of my life? I can guarantee you, my son, Brandon, loved me and would never want me to suffer the rest of my life. He wants me to help people. He wants me to show people through his mistakes, show people through my mistakes, that there's a way out of this, okay? Brandon can speak through me. I knew him better than anybody else. Or as good as his best compadre, right? I was his father. I raised him. I lived with him. I saw his darkness. I saw his light. And he was no different than any other young boy, young man trying to get through life. And just, discover this light, I've discovered it. This light, this God of my own understanding, can help you not just get sober, even if you're not an alcoholic or an addict or anything like that. That's what my intent was to make these videos. If you're just a normal fucking Joe Blow, right? And you struggle with anything and you're a non-believer, what do you got to lose, right? What do you got to lose if you take a 5-day God challenge, right? I've talked about this in the other videos. Just for 5 days, go, I'm going to pretend I believe for 5 days. And for 5 days, I'm going to get on my knees in the morning, right? And I'm going to ask God to help my day go correctly. I'm going to try to be of maximum use to other people. I'm just going to be a better woman or man today, right? Help me, God. God, help show me that you exist, right? And after 5 days of doing that, right? Tell me he doesn't exist. It's insane, man, how anybody would want to get through life without it. Without him. Without the light. When I say it, I just mean the light. Live in the light, man. If you're struggling to get sober, like I have spent many of my days, I hope you have someone in your life like Brandon that loved me enough to tell me the truth about who I was. And I hope that you're as fortunate enough as I was to get on my knees, to get on your knees and pray. Ask God for some help. If you're struggling with alcohol and drugs, do that for 5 days. Get to a meeting, raise your hand. Say, hey, my name's Mary, Steve, Gary, Joe, whatever. I'm struggling with alcohol and I need some help. You watch how amazing God works through other people. Not an easy thing to do. It's actually one of the most courageous things you could ever do. Really hard to do. God gives you that strength. No one wants to raise their hand and say, hey, I'm a fuck up. I've been fucking up everything my whole life and I'm weak. I've been doing drugs or alcohol. Nobody wants to do that, man. But if that's your keys to the kingdom, and I guarantee you it is, that is your keys to happiness if you're anything like me. Give it a shot. The 5-day God challenge. Okay? Have a vision for your life, how you want to live your life, where you're falling short, how you want to improve it. If you want to throw a Ferrari and a Porsche in there, go ahead. It's your life, right? For me, I've driven all that shit. That shit's never brought me happiness. I just want to live happy. And you know what? I didn't bury my son. I just lost my son. I have not buried him yet. But I've been given the strength through a God of my understanding to walk through this stuff. And I hope you find that for yourself. So, have a vision for yourself, how you want your life to be. Pray to God for that vision to be clear. Ask Him for help. and then go help someone. Okay? Until the next video, do those things. Let me know how it works out for you.